welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life from inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, right there in Liverpool, New York, here in central New York, with all different shapes and size vehicles, new and used, open Monday through Saturday for you to peruse their selection, and you can find out more and get a sneak peek by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. I am here picture in picture with Mr. Robin Wheeless of the Moyne Dolphins men's and women's track and field and cross country programs, their head coach and their fearless leader. He's been on the show here for years on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Dolphins of Moyne. And it is always my pleasure to have Robin on the show. Robin, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Life is pretty good.
Robin, I had to ask you this because it's been on my mind, and I don't know why I never asked you this before, but my favorite actor of all time, one of my favorite comedians, somebody that I always wanted to work with, and I hope that 100 years from now, when I'm ready to go in my sleep at 100 whatever, that I have the opportunity to meet Robin Williams. Is there anything, any pride, any sense of that you take? You don't hear the name Robin a lot, but Robin Williams is one of those bright spots and those stars here. You've been a bright spot at Moyne. So do you like the fact that you share that first name with Robin Williams?
I do, but growing up, it was a lot cooler to have the same name as Robin Hood
Okay. All right. Fair
and
enough.
Robin Yount.
And I feel that. And so Robin Hood, right, stole from the rich and gave to the poor. So did you ever live a Robin Hood-esque life or no?
I I don't think I'm that altruistic.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So this Robin, Mr. Wheel, is here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are inside of this track and field season and obviously excited about what is here and what is to come. You sent me a message going into this about what the team had the opportunity to do. And I wanted to share that. Your team traveled to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina over spring break and had an outdoor track meet. Bring me into that experience for the team.
Well, I mean, I will say it's a lot when you we take a full bus down. It's a long time to be on a bus with 50 of your closest friends, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's it's a long 13-hour drive, but it was well worth it. We're really appreciative of our alumni and supporters who made that possible. But it was great to go down. We had fantastic weather. They have a terrific facility there. And then they had a 3-day track meet
Yeah.
that they had teams from 18 different states there. 71 different teams were there.
Oh my goodness.
So it was there was a lot of competition.
18 different states at this meet in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina over spring break, 71 different schools.
Yeah.
Have you been a part of something to that magnitude before? Just what you could say to that effect.
Well, there is for cross country. We do go to the Paul Short Invitational, which is I mean, I want to say last year they may have even had teams from other countries there. But we have quite a few teams from as far away as California going to that meet. So that is a huge meet, and they'll have I want to say they'll have about 150 teams at that meet.
Okay.
But it's this is something special though when I've never been in something quite that big with a track team.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you've done it for cross country, but not so much with track. Why is it that, when you said 150 teams at a cross country event, why is it that we would see more at cross country versus track and field?
Well, it's a little more difficult to manage a number of teams at a track meet. You're just when you have the large numbers,
Yeah.
that creates large heats and a lot of there's a lot of waiting and stuff like that. But I do suppose when we ran in the ECACs for indoor last year. That was also very large, but you're not bringing your whole team there. You're only able to bring your elite runners for that meet.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, 18 different states for this one for Myrtle Beach, and to have not only that, but to have 71 different schools there. I mean, that's an experience in and of itself, right? To have 18 different states of the 50, that are there. We're talking about, more than a third of what we're looking at here. What was that like for the student athletes, and did you get to kind of enjoy that? Did they get to take that in and look around and say, like, there's a good portion of the country that's represented here? It's not just a bunch of colleges, but colleges from so many different states, and obviously each state has their own personality.
Well, this has been our first time trying this,
Okay.
and even though the bus ride wasn't my favorite part, I don't know that the kids disliked it that much.
Okay.
I don't think there was a part of the trip they didn't love. Um, the level of competition was was really exceptional, and I think the kids saw that we're doing something special here. We're going to another level here,
Yeah.
and I think they really appreciated the whole experience.
Yeah, and you said that maybe the 13-hour bus ride wasn't your cup of tea, but you feel like the team was okay with it. What was it about watching them in this experience that made you believe, like, hey, this is something special? Like, maybe coach doesn't want to sit on this bus for half a day, but why do you feel like maybe it was a good experience for the team wise to bond and to gel and to be together? Why was this bus ride so important?
It's anytime you have them in an experience where they're close together and um, it's not always comfortable or fun, but they're going through it together. And um, the bus ride, you know, it's not as bad as we're not riding a yellow school bus. So I don't want to make it sound like
Yeah.
we were, you know, Spanish Inquisition or something like that.
I hear
But
you.
it was it wasn't so bad in that point, but people get silly on a bus ride where all of a sudden people start singing or different games break out. You know, they enjoy being together, and this was just another thing that they were able to experience together. And we talked about it after we got back, how this is the sort of thing that in 20 years, I hope they're back for a class reunion,
Yeah.
and I hope they're talking about this trip.
Yeah, in this trip, like you said, it came about. It's something that you haven't done before with track and field. How did this plan come about? Was it kind of more later on in the, okay, we need to make a decision, we're going to do this? Is this an add-on to the schedule that you already had? Was this, hey, months in advance, I know we're going to do this, so this is where we're going to be? How did you schedule this into the season with this being something so new for the track and field teams, I should say, at Lemoyne?
Well, we had talked about it quite a bit for the last 3 years. We've talked about it,
Yeah.
but um, raising enough funds to make it happen. We weren't sure we were going to have enough when the school year started,
Okay.
but you know, people came through for us. They donated, and we really appreciated that. It's it really wasn't it really wasn't a definite thing though until we had a special fundraiser we did in January. So that put us over the top and um, definitely allowed us to. Um, I want to say shortly after that, I called them up and put the down payment down on the rooms.
So you said that like you had something in January that came about. and that fundraiser, obviously before Giving Day. Did you utilize anything from Giving Day toward this as well? I mean, did you say like, hey, we met what we needed in January in this fundraiser that we did in order to make this possible? Or did you allocate some things from Giving Day as well? Like, how did Giving Day kind of work into this, if it did?
Well, Giving Day, that's actually we need that to go towards um, next fall.
Okay.
We start the cross country season by going up to the Adirondacks for a few days. So we're raising money for that. There's extra equipment that we need to get here and there, things that unexpectedly break down or that sort of thing. And the the money that is donated goes to a lot of different things that help our team. But I feel like events like when we go up to the Adirondacks with the cross country team,
Yeah.
and that's the first time the team is getting together for the year. And we've got a lot of freshmen in that group. When we can be away when it's just us, I think that's a special team bonding time. And we we had a fantastic experience up there, and we came back as a much tighter group. So I'm thrilled that we did the trip this year, and I'm hoping that we can do it again. That's going to take a lot of work though to get there. So, but it was well worth it, and I see it as something, if at all possible, the kids would like to do. They'd like to do it just about every week, but they really were thinking when we stopped for a rest stop and it was snowing out, they were really thinking, let's go back to South Carolina right now.
Yeah.
We'll come back in a couple of weeks.
Well, and like you said, I mean, the fundraiser that you did helped to provide for this, and then Giving Day helps to provide for what you're doing with the Adirondacks going into the season. The Adirondacks piece of it, is that a before every season? Is this something that like that is an every year trip?
That one we just started.
Okay.
We did it last year. The year before we had gone to another camp.
Okay.
So I think with the transition to D1, we're trying to raise the bar on everything we're doing, and it takes time. But some of these things weren't planned for when we made the move, but we thought if we want to be a D1 program, these are the sort of things we need to be doing.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, in that elevation to Division 1, making sure that you're creating these experiences and these opportunities. Do you feel like it's one of those things like if we do it, we can use it in recruiting? If we don't do it, teams can use it against us in recruiting?
There's certainly an element to that. I know that what I tell the kids all the time when I'm recruiting somebody, somebody's on campus talking with us, it's I'm not the sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
The team is the sales pitch because they're a terrific group of people.
Yeah.
And when they get to meet kids on the team, they talk about experiences like this. They talk about the things the team does together.
Yeah.
And then the recruits are looking at that as, this is something I'd like to be a part of. It might not be the most expensive thing we do.
Yeah.
It's over before school started, our whole team went down and went ice skating down in Syracuse.
Okay.
So sometimes it's the little things that they do together that say more than doing the big things like a trip, but they enjoy being together. And to me, that's important.
Yeah, and like you said, that time, the bonding, the connection that these student athletes can have together and just what that does. And like you said, that it's a long bus ride, but the 13 hours, games break out, conversations break out, different things break out. For you, is that a vital component? Is it just as vital as practice, just as vital as as, preparing yourself and nutrition and whatnot to have these team bonding, get away from everything. It's just us. All we got is us. Do you feel like that element of it, these trips, and not just the trip of the destination, but the journey to the destination, do you feel like this is just as important as every other element to success, every other ingredient, so to speak?
Well, I think there's a lot to being on a team.
Yeah.
And I think having that bond does more than just um, promote um, a good spirit about the team. It's there's sort of a I owe it to the team to give my best in practice. I owe it to the team when I'm not feeling it to put my best effort for it. And when you go to a meet, and there's times where you'll be running a couple of events,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll never tell the kids this while we're at practice, but there's times I think the weather really stinks. It's when it's in the low 40s and raining and blowing hard, they're not canceling the meet, and we're standing out there in it. And when it's a day of practice, I'm telling them this is a great day to run. But if you don't have your teammates there, it's a lot harder to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that commitment to each other, that starts with having that bond.
Yeah, and that bond, these trips, these drives together, these rides together, to go to the tournament itself, and to reflect on what it was, this invitational, this Alan Connie Shamrock Invitational that we're talking about, that was at Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, on March 20th, 21st, and 22nd of this year. What have you reflected on now that you've had a few days to kind of think about it, to let it marinate and sit with you? What were your takeaways from Myrtle Beach, with this being a first time event of this style for you, as far as the distance that you went and doing something special for this track and field team in this evolution from NCAA Division II to Division I? What are the takeaways?
Well, I was very happy. There's times when you have the break between indoor and outdoor. We take a few days and we'll switch our training back
Yeah.
to more of a base training, a little more of the general conditioning, get away from the top end speed work. And we're trying to um, almost do a reset on our season to,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to peak too early by doing too much speed too early. We want to get stronger without killing ourselves there. And the fact that quite a few people came out and ran personal bests says they came in with a purpose. They've been working hard. And I think having this meet there, knowing it was coming up and there'd be a lot of schools there, I think that helped motivate the people.
Yeah.
A couple people haven't seen this level of competition. Some people, um, it overwhelmed them a little bit and they didn't have great days,
Okay.
but now they've had that experience. Others came in and did personal bests. We had three kids set school records at the meet, and Jack Gibson, who was our top runner for the cross country team,
Yeah.
he ended up setting the school record for the 5,000 and winning the championship there. So he he had an amazing day, but a lot of other people ran personal bests there as well. So I think it bodes well when we haven't started our speed work yet and people are running at that level and they're dealing with the stress of, you know, I don't know these guys and this school is, you know, pretty much loaded for bear. It's, you know, they experienced a big meet And that's important, especially for the people who are going to be going to the conference championship. They need that pressure to learn from it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, the whole reality of pressure making diamonds, like you were talking about, people not being used to this. This was their first event of this magnitude, and people coming away with personal bests. When an event like this happens and it's so unique, you talked about getting ready for those that are going to be playing, going further, right? Competing further here and have the opportunity to represent Lemoyne beyond this. And when we look at what's to come here, there's a bunch of more opportunities here to showcase yourself, but then there's the NEC Outdoor Track and Field Championships, and there's the IC4A Outdoor Track and Field Championships. We talk about the ECAC. So as we're looking to do this, just to kind of explain and paint a picture for those that don't know, are they qualifying through these invitationals for the NEC and the IC4A? Can they qualify within other invitationals and things you're going to have this season beyond that? What kind of goes into the portfolio of each student athlete to determine if they're going to represent conference-wise and nationally?
So for us, it's the watch is all we care about. So where other sports, actually even with cross country, for a team to go to nationals, you need a resume.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about moving forward for us is about the watch or the tape measure, or it's just, what did you do in competition?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it was at a big meet or a small meet, but you need to produce the times. And we use every meet as a chance to get a qualifying time or distance for that. But the way we set up our training and our practice schedule and the meets is we want a few meets during the regular season that an individual is going to go after a qualifying time. It's a sort of thing where you can't do it every week.
Yeah.
You have to use some weeks as training and other weeks as, well, I won't say that the meets you're not going to run your hardest.
Yeah.
You may try things in certain meets as far as a different strategy, or I might, use a different technique in an event. That being in a meet situation changes the dynamic a little bit. So every meet out there, we are looking at the times and the distances, but it's not like a resume. But what having a meet like this does do is it gives you competition in there that raises the bar. You have the better competition, so hopefully you want to raise the bar with them and you go after that competition. And sometimes you stick your nose in where maybe it didn't belong.
Yeah.
But sometimes you find something out about yourself when you do that.
And when you're finding out about this team and, the men's and women's side of things when it comes to track and field, have there been pleasant surprises, especially coming off most recently here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? Are there things that you're seeing of saying, this person just got a personal best and I thought they might get here, but they got here faster? Or this student athlete, I asked them to do this. I asked them to be a part of this event. It was maybe not something they were as comfortable with in high school, but they're excelling at it. Are there, because there's wins beyond the wins, right? Because you, like you said, you're watching the watch. You're watching the watch. You want to get certain times. You want to qualify. You're going to use certain events to train. You're going to use certain events as qualifying times. But there's those little victories that you're watching as a head coach and that your staff is watching. What are some of those victories that we have had this season with this unit when it comes to track and field?
Well, I think one of the best examples is, and it shows that I don't know everything. One of the guys on our team, um, Skylar Gravel,
Mm-hmm.
he came in as, he's a nice kid. He hasn't tried longer stuff. He's a 400 guy, 200, 400. And, I think he's probably going to be an okay 800 guy, though. So I'll bring him in and try that, maybe mile and cross country. And the cross country thing didn't work out too well with the first attempt at looking at that. But I think with Coach Grasso does an excellent job with the sprinters, and she really brings out the best in them. And this guy came in as a fairly mediocre 400-meter runner. He was high 55 for the 400, and while that's nice, it's not going to help us at the championship, and he's not going to be invited to go to the championship. He set the school record this weekend in the 400,
Yeah.
running a 49, and it's hard work over time. And if somebody had told me that a year and a half ago when he showed up at campus, I would have outright laughed at them. But he was one of those surprises that I wouldn't say it was a complete surprise this weekend because it's been coming along.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that really has made huge improvements over these months. We've also had people in the the hurdles are coming along as far as the 400. We have Matthew Frissa, who's a senior now. He transferred in last year, and he's one of those guys that, again, we thought he might be able to help us a little bit, but to come in and drop a lot of time off and be a scorer at the conference championship is something we weren't really expecting. So the big competition sometimes brings out the best in people.
Yeah, and to have those examples, to have those elements and those pieces. I mean, when we look at track and field, what I love about it is there's so many different things going on. And not only have I spoken with you over the years, but I cover a lot of the high schools in central and upstate New York, and I sat down with Liverpool and spoke with them about track. And we look at, sprints, javelin, mid-distance, distance itself, throwers that you have, as well as those that are your jumpers, your hurdlers, and the steeplechase as well. There's so many different elements to track and field. It's not just simply one thing. And when I was sitting with Liverpool, I got to speak with, those that are throwing the javelin, which it makes me think of the Coliseum. It brings me back to like old times of the world, right? These gladiators throwing javelins, and then to just look at hurdles and your throwers and just the incredible kind of superhuman elements that there are to the speed and the throwing and the hurdling and when it comes to javelin, obviously throwing that as well. There's so many elements to track and field that are so interesting. And I feel like, this country talks a lot about basketball and football, and I love those too. But what I love about track and field is that it makes you think of the gladiators. It makes you think of, Olympics. It's something to be seen, and it's just incredible what student athletes can do with their bodies. And like I said, to essentially become these superheroes on a random weekend during the year. So what is it like for you to be a part of that and a part of all of these different events? Because it is so unique and it's so historic, and it just, I don't know. I think that there's like a pageantry and a beauty to it, and there's an essence to it that other sports don't have this exact feel. If that makes sense.
I mean, I feel like there is that um, with some of the events, there's a grandeur to it.
Yeah.
But I also think um, it's also going to attract me. It's a bit like a three-ring circus
Yeah.
because you'll have the hurdles going on, and then you look over there, and somebody's throwing the shot put,
Yeah.
and somebody's running down the runway for the long jump. There's something going on all over the place. And it really is, one great athlete after another doing, phenomenal things. Um, and then when you see it be kids on our team who, I mean, a couple of our throwers have really improved a lot. And they came in as, um, I would say, they didn't have the physique they do now.
Yeah.
And they put in a lot of hours in the weight room, a lot of hours out in the throwing circle. And it's, they've become different athletes. They're at a different level now. And it's fun to watch that happen.
And you made mention of this evolution of the student athlete. For you, seeing this transition from the inside out from NCAA Division two to Division one, what has that done? I mean, have you seen, like, with yourself, that you have to recruit a different type of student athlete? Do you feel that the workout regimens have to be different? The amount of time spent has to be different in this transitionary period. And now that we're in year two, and once we hit May, we'll be starting year three of this transition for Lemoyne. What have been the things that you've really honed in on and said, these are different? This is different. This is a new challenge. What are some of those things?
Well, I will say with the change to D1, I think there's athletes who are more receptive to coming to Lemoyne than they were before. The amount of time we spend, we haven't changed, but I feel there's a different intensity
Okay.
to the workouts now. There's a different level of focus. And well, in the past, um, things weren't as sharp as they are now. I think it's a matter of there's a little more seriousness about trying to be the best we can be. The whole idea of Magis,
Yeah.
it's what can you do to be better? And um, I don't I don't want to say we're leaving no stone unturned, but we're taking things a lot more seriously, or at least the athletes are.
Yeah. And in this period of changeover and this movement forward, there's the reality of facilities and wanting to have a track on campus. When Bob Beretta was leading the athletics department at Moyne College, him and I spoke, and we did an exclusive last January that we were going to see a revitalizing of the events and rec center, tennis courts on campus, and a track on campus. And then Bob moved on to St. Bonaventure with that plan having been released. And then in comes interim athletics director Mike Lindberg. And now we have the leader of athletics, Phil Brown, coming from Vanderbilt. Where is that? Where have you, when it comes to the timeline of having a track on campus, which is obviously going to help you in recruiting, and it's going to help the student athletes, and it's going to help teachers, and it's going to help students in general, and it's going to be great for the campus. What have you heard as far as where that's at? Is it still a part of the plan? And kind of the ins and outs of what you do know about bringing a track, because you spend your entire season on the road, and I know it's going to mean a lot to you to have some things at home.
Well, it's a little bit of a not easy question now. With everything going on, we've had several meetings with they brought in all the interested parties as far as the people who would be using the facilities,
Yeah.
um, between recreation, track and field, um, soccer, tennis. Um, there's a lot of people putting voice to what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've had a lot of meetings about that. I'll be honest, I'm not sure when a shovel will be in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we haven't completely defined what the track will look like. There is a plan to have the track. So I believe we're looking at, there's a lot of phases to what they're adding to the with the facility upgrades. So I know one of the things they're also looking at is upgrading the recreation center portion to add a lot of facilities in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be a matter of until everything's ironed out with the track, we iron we start figuring out what we're doing with the rest of the building. So um, my hope is that a shovel or something starts to be constructed next summer. I'm not certain of that.
And are we talking an indoor track facility, or are we talking something that would be uncovered?
Um, I'm not I'm not exactly sure what options are off the table right now.
Okay.
I think I think there's a lot of things being considered. But um, the better the facility, the more it costs, the more thought needs to go into it. So um, I do think if it was an outdoor facility, things would happen much more quickly.
Yeah.
I think if it's an indoor facility, I think that would take more time. But um, I I really don't have the answers.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, obviously controlling the controllables and doing the things you can do and creating these experiences, these trips, this Myrtle Beach Invitational, as well as going to the Adirondacks is going to be huge. Coming up here this weekend in Easton, PA, you have the Leopard Invite from Lafayette. Then you will head to Cortland for the Red Dragon Open in Multi. And then you will have the Bucknell Bison Outdoor Classic in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Back in New York for the SUNY Brockport Outdoor Multi, and then the UB Alumni Invite in Buffalo, New York, before you round things out ahead of the NECs in Pittsford, New York, for the Cardinal Classic. So, of the events that you have coming up right now, where are we as far as qualifying and student athletes? Are we looking at a long runway and a lot of opportunities for student athletes to find their place inside of the IC4A as well as the NEC? Just what you could say about this rest of the season individually and as a team.
Um, like I was saying before, there's certain meets we'll pick for qualifying times,
Yeah.
and it really depends on the event, what one you really want to go for. This weekend, I know I have one guy who will be going for the 5,000, and hopefully that will go well. We have a couple of our guys are going to do the steeplechase for the first time this season. That's with the steeple, you'll only do that event so many times in a season. It's fairly demanding, and you don't want, coming off the barrier jump, all of that. You don't want to do that too often. So this is the first test for them to see, the conference championship. I think that's a given for these two guys, but whether or not they can put a time down that will get them into the ECACs, that would be it would be nice if they could do that, but would probably run that one more time, possibly at Bucknell for that. to
Okay.
go after a fast time. You need enough competition um, to get through to the other side on that one. Um, it can be a lonely event if you don't have a big field. Um, we're also, as we get a little bit warmer, then it becomes a little easier for the sprinters to take to the stage. Um, we don't want to, when it's in the 40s and 50s, it's a little hard to um, keep the hamstrings from popping. So, so
Understood.
um, there's there's meets like when we go to Buffalo or um, as far as the Bucknell meet, that might be another opportunity for the sprinters because we're a little farther into the spring. Um, I'm kind of glad we're going down to Easton, Pennsylvania on Saturday. The weather here doesn't look great. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be in the 70s though down there. So a little bit of extra travel time is going to pay off there, I hope.
Yeah. We just need to get you down. I mean, when the season's over, we just need to get a Robin Wheeless Florida trip going. There needs to be a little NIL deal for Robin. Robin,
There you go.
before I let you go, I want to have the opportunity to play some rapid fire here. We're here with the men's and women's track and field and cross country head coach for the Moyne College Dolphins inside of this edition of the Dolphin Dive in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Moyne College Dolphins on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. You get to ask the first question. What do you got for me?
Let's see. Um, Hold on. I'll think of something.
Okay.
Let's go with what's your favorite John Wayne movie?
Oh boy. My favorite John Wayne movie. So now that's kind of bringing me back to impressions and Robin Williams and all that stuff. So I'm gonna pull up a list right now and I'm gonna see because I took a film class in school in college and I'm gonna jog my memory back here now. So is there something that I saw or did I not see something with him? I would probably if I'm gonna pick you know what? I mean, I'm a fan of the story, so I'm gonna pick the Three Musketeers. I'm gonna pick that. So just because of the fact of like growing up, and that was always something that stuck with me. Interested in seeing Babyface, so I would say that here.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean I'm looking through the list right now. There's so many,
Okay.
but I would my question back to you, Mister Wheeless, is you and I see each other on the golf course every year as my company has the partnership with Lemoyne, and obviously you're a coach. And so I want to know since I haven't seen you on the actual course, I usually see you afterwards when we're eating dinner. How good of a golfer are you?
I am I am a really good golfer for captain and crew.
Ditto.
I I play golf probably four times a year. If I'm lucky, six times a year.
Okay.
So when I get on the tee, I swing from the heels. I may black out at some point through the swing,
Okay.
but I'm not going to let up on any drives because occasionally I'll hit one down the middle.
Okay.
It's unlikely, but um, I I enjoy golf for that. I am possibly the worst putter ever. I look at the pros and I enjoy watching golf, but they look at they look at a 30 footer as a makeable putt.
Yeah.
I look at a 3 footer as I've got a 50-50 shot at this. I and I'm just as likely to go 10 yards past. So
Uh,
I am I love playing golf. I just I don't put the time in that it takes.
yeah.
And it just takes time to be a very good golfer. So maybe at some point I'll retire, and that'll be my next focus. I wouldn't say next career, that's for sure.
Well, I will say, I mean, you got a guy right there in Joe Tesori. Call him up. But I will say that I'm really good for captain and crew as well. And I'm a very good putter. I call myself the Mariano Rivera of golf. If you get me to the green, I will bring you home. So you black out and send the drive, I'll put us home. It sounds like we complement each other.
There we go.
What's your final question for me?
Let's see. Which do you prefer better, and why? Um, we've got the NCAA basketball tournament going on. Do you prefer the men's game or the women's game?
You're asking a man who supported women's athletics from the beginning of his career when I was laughed at and I was told it wasn't cool. So I have I literally started my career with men's and women's basketball, and I was told that we were going to do men's basketball, and I said, "Are we going to do both?" And they're like, "Well, we're definitely going to do men's." And I was like, "Are we going to do both?" And I pushed for women's, and thank goodness I did, because I met some of my close friends that I have to this day, and our women's teams are so good. And I want to shout out Tara Machaco and all the student athletes at my school for the work that they did at Marywood. I it's a tough question because I grew up watching the men's game. The women's game wasn't on television except for like the championship. And so I wasn't exposed to it. And now, having met some coaches, having built relationships with coaches all over the country in women's basketball, and, you know, I got to spend some really good quality time and have some really cool conversations at the Big East Media Day and with the American Athletic. And I got to talk with, obviously, Felicia Leggett-Jack at Syracuse and Nick DiPillo at Lemoyne and Mary Grimes now down in Binghamton. So, and of course, I don't want to forget Tay Baker and Coach KD at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. So, I mean, for me, and Mike Wheeler's doing a tremendous job with Liverpool High School, I don't know if I can pick, because I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say that I have more memories of men's basketball because it was on more growing up. But the women's basketball game, especially 2 years ago, like to this day, I mean, I just pulled this in a box break we did yesterday, but this is my Caitlin Clark rookie card. She is my favorite. And, you know, I'm also a big fan of Breanna Stewart, whose autograph sits over my shoulder. So, I mean, I think the women's game shows more fundamentals. I think the women's game is more pure. And I think I search for that in the men's game. I think that's why I like Gonzaga. I think it's why I like the certain teams I like. Why I respect Duke and John Shire. So it's really hard for me to decide because I love them both and I watch them both. But I would probably say I've watched more of the men because the women weren't on television. So I think I would probably lean toward the men's side historically, but 2 years ago I had more fun watching the women's Final Four and championship game than anything that the men were doing on their end for the Final Four and the championship. I just thought it was highly competitive. I thought it was better. I thought LSU versus Iowa was something that should not be on in the middle of the day. I think the only problem I have with women's basketball right now is that they're still disrespected. I mean, you got a championship game on a Sunday in the middle of the day. That's stupid to me. Should be on at 8 o'clock at night. So, yeah, I know it's a long-winded answer, but it's because I love basketball, and I don't look at men's basketball and women's basketball. I just look at like who can ball, and if you can play, you can play. And so I'm drawn to teams and individuals and coaches that I deeply respect. And I've been pretty spoiled in the women's game and in the men's game to be around some really awesome coaches. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could pick. I'm going to watch both, I would say to you. But my favorite part is probably the men's tournament round of 64, where there's games on from noon until 1 o'clock in the morning. That I love. My final question for you Good question, because like I can't really answer it. So I mean I can, but I don't want to like choose one over the other. My question back to you, Robin. Okay, let's figure this out. You and I've talked for a few years. Let's see what you remember about me or what you know. So if you were going to pick a place for track and field to have their next event that you've never been to before, and you're going to invite me and have me be on the plane with y'all. We're getting on the plane. We're doing this together, and I'm going to documentary this thing. We're going to cover the games on the plane. We're going to cover the conversations. We're going to cover film study, practice, everything. And then I'm going to be at the meet. If we're doing a full blown a day in the life of a Dolphin, I want you to pick where you would want to have the event. If like money isn't an option, it's just you could go wherever you want. I want to know, where would you go that you feel like you would call me up and say, you got to come to this one?
Well, I've never been able to, I've never taken a team to the Penn Relays.
Okay.
And I would love to take a team to that. It probably would only be a relay team or an individual or two.
Okay.
But to me, that would be I would love to have that documented so that I could remember, I could have every minute of that experience where, I mean, they run 4x4s for it's hours of 4x4s. They get teams from all over for this, and phenomenal. The distance runners are amazing. They have, you know, Olympic, Olympians, and some spectacular events going on. I think I would love to have an event like that covered, just so I could, go back and when I'm in the moment, in the event, I probably wouldn't even catch all of the things going on. So I'd love to have, all of that captured and documented, and so I could go back to it.
Fair enough. Well, Moyne College, you've heard it. Write me in. I need a hotel room. I need transportation and a food voucher. Let's make it happen. With that being said, Robin Wheeless of Moyne College, the Dolphins men's and women's track and field and cross country head coach, who has spent many years on my broadcast and has allowed not only himself, but student athletes to be here, and some incredible stories that I've gotten to tell because of you and your staff and the people that you recruit and these wonderful kids that come in. So I'm not just going to thank you, Robin. I'm going to thank your staff, and I'm going to thank your student athletes who have made my job a lot of fun. And I look forward to talking with you soon. And I look forward to a golf day where you can send it and I can send it home.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.